how are you doing? Miss Linda here. So today let's talk about how to become a magnet to a soft life. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my weekly videos. I talk about seduction, high value dating, and goddess mentality. So, a couple of weeks ago, it was actually during my son's sports day. I met an old friend, and she's this classic, ambitious, successful babe. And as we were talking, she's like, okay, so Linda, how have you been? Because it had been quite some time since we met. I actually knew her from high school. So, and she's always known me to be in the corporate world. If you're new to this channel, you know that I've worked in corporate for over 10 years. But I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But long story short, right now, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm building my own online brand. So she was excited and she was asking me, so Linda, how is everything? How is work? And then I told her, right now I'm actually focusing on my online brand. She looked at me like, what? So yeah, she's like, I mean, how can you leave such a high-flying job to start blogging and doing online videos? I mean, why would you do that? And I mean, I was at a loss of words because I don't really have to explain the choices I make. But as she was talking, she eventually opened up and she told me she had just flown in from the US and she had landed the previous night and she had to come to school, the following morning. She was still so jet lagged, so tired, and she had to stay the entire day, and the following day she was still going back to work. So in my mind, I was thinking, wow, okay, that definitely is a lifestyle choice you've had to make. I choose to live life in a particular way. And you see, there's this whole soft life movement that's coming along, and it's such a wonderful thing. It's such a wonderful movement because, truthfully, I've learned to live this life. I went through my own awakening journey 3.5 years ago, and I've really had to take time to just reconnect with myself, learn to be a woman again, learn to feel pleasure, to feel play, because I realized that for over decades, 3 or so decades, I've been living my life from a masculine point of view. Yes, I'm married. Yes, I'm a mom. I am a mother. I am a wife. I am a friend. But that does not mean that I was in my feminine. So when it comes to living a softer life, it's all about choosing yourself. It's all about prioritizing yourself. What makes you happy? What gives you joy? For me, I was really struggling with the whole corporate thing. And it had reached a certain point in time whereby I was having to juggle between growing my family. I was having such a difficult time with that, trying to get my second child. And then at that point in time, I was also at the peak of my career with a very demanding corporate job, all over Africa, big budgets. I mean, I lived that life. That whole boss babe thing, I've lived that life. But it reached a point where I'd go for checkups with my doctor, and he's like, Linda, your hormones, they are all over the place. And we could not start my treatment until the hormones would stabilize to a particular point. And it was actually throughout the entire year, yes, I was earning the money, but I'm like, what is the point of earning money if I want to conceive, I want to, get back to, motherhood, to raise my second child, my hormones are not stabilizing, and what's the constant stressor in my life? My job, my corporate job. So I made an active decision to step back. And of course, it created a shift in the marriage. And to be honest, I am so happy that I took that choice. I made that decision. And of course, at some point, you start to feel like, oh my goodness, did I do the right thing? Or what will people say? Of course, I meet certain friends and people who've known me from the corporate world, And they're like, Linda, what are you doing now? Like, you get a sense where people start to judge you for the lifestyle choices that you made. But for me, I couldn't be happier. The decision I've made right now to just reconnect with my womanhood, to be able to be in my more nurturing mode. I have so much time for my child, so much time for my family, so much time just to deep into my whole creative flow and reconnect with me. It's there's nothing, honestly, I would not trade that for anything else. So when it comes to you being a magnet to a softer life, it starts with you choosing yourself. Ask yourself, if you look at the where you are at in your life right now, and this is what I did 3.5 years ago, I reached a point where I'm like, no, Linda, something is not right. I had to reach a point where I chose me. And that meant so many things to me. It was not an easy decision because, of course, growing up, society conditioned us as women, at least from the ladies I speak with, to find so much of our value based on the things that we do for people. So for me back then, I was deriving so much of my value from, oh, the fact that I had a successful high flying career, I was well educated, I was earning so much money. And don't get me wrong, all that is beautiful, all that is amazing. But what does that then mean for you as a woman? Sometimes we forget that we as women are supposed to, you know, to be able to lean in our feminine flow, in our femininity. And what does that mean? It means prioritizing pleasure, prioritizing play, being graceful, being able to receive the life's simple pleasures. And this does not mean that you step out of having to work. For me, I work. In fact, if anything, I am so, so passionate about what I do. And what I love is the fact that I am able to utilize my creativity to birth the things that I do. My YouTube community, my Instagram community, the books that I write, the mini classes that I do, that is as a result of me resting in my femininity and birthing things. And for you to also be a magnet to what you want, the softer life, it also comes with you. Yes, you can say yes to yourself, but that also means you decide. You decide that, you know what, I want to try something different. And for you to be able to try something different, it means you should be able to open up your mind. I remember at that point in time, I was also struggling in my marriage. Of course, it was the 7 year age, and I was beginning to feel a little bit bored. Then also the fact that we were trying to conceive a second child, and it was just a really tough time. And then also I was at the peak of my career, so also that stress for my job. I mean, it was just a really it was one of those phases in marriage. And I remember at that point, I sat back and I'm like, what can I do? What can I do about my scenario? Because I'd read about women who've reached that particular point in time and they ended up getting so depressed. And had I not gone through that deep, I probably would not have, started to discover myself. It was at that point where I embraced personal development. I started to look at, Linda, what could you do differently? I also enrolled, and that was actually the first time I worked with my womanhood mentor. And for me, it opened up such big doors. It opened up my mind so, so much. And that's why for you to be a magnet for a softer life, it also means that you need to be able to be curious enough and open your mind up to what the possibilities will be. Because trust you me, society will sell you a particular way of doing things. Go to school, get married, get children, have a job, buy a home, then retire, then you pass on. I mean, if you look at that particular script, honestly, to me, it can be extremely dull and dry. Extremely dull and dry. To the point whereby you can sit and think, is this what life is all about? And that is where I was. I sat down and I'm like, Linda, is this it? Like, I have a family, I have a career, I have a home. Like, is this it? And you see, once you start to feel like there's something missing in your life, chances are, if you're a woman, it's a call for you to really just look back and see, are you out of balance with where you're meant to be? Are you really living life from the place of flow and ease that you're meant to be? Because sometimes that point where you start to question things, you start to doubt, you want to look for more, you want to look for answers, chances are you're being called to look at your life from a very different perspective. And life can, it can come in such an interesting way. There are some people who've had to like have near-death experiences. I remember the very first time that happened to me when I gave birth to my son, I almost died because I got such a major complication a week after, and I had to go back for like medical procedures a week after I'd given birth to my son. And that meant, I remember my son was born in November. Christmas, I was in hospital. I think I underwent like 2, 3, 4 surgeries during that period just to get me back into shape. I remember spending like 4, 5, how many? 6 or so weeks without my newborn child. And you see, at that point, that was the universe telling me, Linda, you may need to slow down. You may need to rethink your life. But that particular point, the awakening didn't come up. And I continued for a year or two, and I can tell you, that point where I almost lost my son, it sparked something in me. It sparked something in me. And the fact that I was scared to really look further, it meant that I delayed my journey. So long story short, 2 years after I almost lost my son, still that nagging feeling of there has to be more, Linda, there has to be more in life. You're not happy. Okay, this is not it. On the outside, you seem to have things going on, but on the inside, are you really living your life? Whose life are you living? Whose blueprint are you living? Is it yours? Are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you like radiating? Like truly, truly ask yourself, are you happy? And it turns out I was not. And I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And I look at the way so many younger women, and it's so fascinating, so many younger women are coming through by making choices to live a more feminine lifestyle. Femininity has been there, and it's been like a trend for the last 3 or so years. And you could see that shift. In my Instagram, I speak with so many young ladies, and there is a shift. For my private tutoring, I have ladies in their mid 30s, early 30s, and you could see there's that hunger for, just going back to being who you are as an authentic woman. So doors are open for my masterclass, Soft Life Magic, how to go from the whole hustle and grind mode into living a life with feminine ease and grace without having to quit your job or breaking the bank. And quitting your job is something that's so important, because the way femininity and living a soft life is being sold, it's being sold like it's something that only certain class of people can do. No. And these are some of the things I'll be talking through in the 3-day intensive. And if you want to know more about the program, check out the details in the description box. And I look forward to seeing you there. Bye-bye.